Not together, but never apart. Wang and Shen Yue'S unfinished love story takes a turn. They walked in silence. They posted in silence. And now, they are hurting in silence. But the world is watching louder than ever. Following their lake reunion, Shen Yue'S poetic interviews, and Wang's cryptic social media trail, their undefined status has become one of the most talked about topics in entertainment news. But in a shocking new development, what started as an emotional and private reconnect may be spiraling into something neither of them were ready for: a test of loyalty, public pressure, and emotional endurance. And once again, the question hangs in the air like smoke after fire. Can two people still healing survive in a world that won't stop asking if they're whole? The event that exposed everything. It happened at a luxury hotel rooftop event in Guangzhou. Wang was scheduled to appear as the surprise ambassador for an international fashion brand, while Shen Yue was reportedly attending a private event for an environmental documentary. According to multiple guests, neither of them knew the other would be there. Shen Yue arrived first, stunning in an ivory dress with soft waves in her hair. She looked peaceful but guarded, as though bracing herself for something unseen. Dylan came an hour later, dressed in dark grey, with a subtle edge that contrasted sharply with the vulnerability fans had seen in his recent public appearances. And then, it happened. They saw each other across the rooftop. Neither of them smiled. Neither of them moved. But everyone in that space felt the air shift. A makeup artist who was standing nearby whispered. You could literally feel it. The world stopped for a second. They just stared at each other, like they were remembering everything at once. The misunderstanding that ignited the internet. At some point in the night, Dylan was seen speaking to an actress who had previously been linked to him. They stood close, laughing, the kind of closeness that social media eats alive. What fans didn't see was Shen Yue leaving the event moments after. No goodbyes. No explanations. Just, gone. And by morning, Wang rebounds and Shen Yue deserves better were both trending. The internet turned vicious. Old rumors resurfaced. Clips from Shen Yue's emotional interviews were reposted with fiery captions. Edits of her walking away from the event with tears in her eyes, real or imagined, spread like wildfire. But none of it came with context. None of it told the truth. Because what no one captured was the moment Dylan walked out just 10 minutes later alone, holding a folded note in his hand that he had planned to give to her that night. A message that never got delivered. A close source confirmed the letter had been handwritten. 4 pages long. Raw. Honest. Full of things he never had the courage to say in front of the world. It was never meant for headlines. It was never meant to go viral. It was just his heart on paper. That same source claims Dylan sat in his car for over an hour with the letter on his lap, unsure whether to call her or respect her silence. Eventually, he left. He didn't post. He didn't defend himself. He didn't chase the narrative. And that silence only made the storm worse. Shen Yue breaks her silence, but stays ambiguous. Days later, Shen Yue appeared on a quiet podcast, hosted by a longtime friend and actress. The atmosphere was calm, but you could tell the interviewer knew what the world wanted to hear. About halfway through the episode, the topic shifted. When you see someone from your past again, someone who once meant everything, do you let yourself hope again? The host asked. Shen Yue smiled softly, then lowered her gaze. Hope isn't the hard part, she replied. Trusting that the same ending won't happen again, that's what takes courage. She didn't name Dylan. She didn't have to. Her voice trembled with the weight of someone still choosing peace over explanation. Wang finally responds. In the face of growing public backlash, Dylan broke his silence during a live fan interaction. He wasn't smiling the way he used to. He looked real. Stripped down. Honest. I made a lot of mistakes, he admitted. But there's a difference between who I was and who I'm trying to be now. I didn't come back into anyone's life to perform. I came back because some connections don't end, even when everything else does. He paused, visibly emotional, then added. You don't have to name something for it to matter. The comments exploded. Some fans wept. Some called him manipulative. Others begged Shen Yue to give him another chance. And once again, the lines blurred between love and hurt, between the past and the future, between holding on and letting go. One last meeting. Or a new beginning. Just when the world was starting to move on, thinking the silence would stay permanent, they were seen again. In a quiet town near the sea, far from their usual city buzz, a couple was seen walking by the cliffs at sunset. The woman wore a loose cardigan, her hair tucked under a cap. The man walked slightly behind her, keeping pace but not pressure. And in a moment caught by a local, they stopped, looked at the waves, and then at each other. No one knows what they said. No cameras were nearby. But one thing is clear from that moment. They hadn't walked away. Not completely. Not yet. What we know and what we're still waiting for. They're not publicly back together. They haven't made any announcements. There's no kissing photos. No engagement rumors. No official confirmation. But the bond between Dylan Wang and Shen Yue'S is not over. They're still meeting. Still writing. Still remembering. Still healing. And maybe that's more powerful than any headline. Maybe in a world that demands answers, the real love stories are written in the things left unsaid, in the pauses between heartbreak and hope. Because sometimes the best kind of love is the kind that keeps showing up, even when it's not ready to be defined. It had only been a few days since the now infamous moment at the Hangzhou cafe, yet it already felt like a lifetime had passed. Shen Yue had not posted anything. Dylan remained quiet as well. But the silence this time wasn't gentle, it felt like the calm before a thunderstorm no one could predict or stop. For the media, the timing couldn't be more tantalizing. A leaked source from a television producer hinted that Dylan and Shen Yue were in secret negotiations to star opposite each other again in a new drama. The script, reportedly based on a couple caught between duty and desire, mirrored their real-life history a little too closely. And just like that, the fire was reignited. Only this time, it burned with layers: gossip, curiosity, pain, nostalgia, and something even deeper. Something unnamed. The manager's leak that shocked everyone. The shift happened late one night, when an anonymous audio clip was uploaded online. A voice that sounded strikingly similar to Dylan's manager was heard saying in a private conversation, "They never really broke up in their hearts. He talks about her like she's still his." And later in the same audio, "I told him to let her go, to move on. But he keeps holding on to that letter he never gave her. He sleeps with it in his coat pocket when he travels. It's getting unhealthy." The internet erupted. Suddenly, the narrative changed. Fans who had turned on Dylan began to question what they knew. Was he not the villain the media painted him to be? Was he still grieving a love that never really left? And what about Shen Yue? Was she protecting herself, or protecting him? The audio clip spread fast, triggering a storm of reactions. Some were heartbroken. Some called it fake. Others began trending hashtags calling for Shen Yue to give him another chance. But Shen Yue remained quiet. And that silence was once again louder than words. A hidden meeting that could not stay hidden. Despite everything, Dylan and Shen Yue were spotted again, this time in an obscure town near the Yellow Mountains. A fan claimed they saw the two of them inside a family-owned bookstore, seated at the far back, both wearing hats, speaking in hushed tones. The fan, who did not take photos, described the encounter with eerie detail. They weren't touching. But the way they looked at each other, it was heavy. Like they were having 10 conversations with their eyes. At one point she got up and walked outside, and he followed her within seconds. That's not someone you're done with. No official outlet confirmed the sighting. But that didn't matter. The whispers were enough. A week later, a grainy photo was posted by a local Dylan and Shen Yue, standing in the fog, facing each other near a cliff edge. No staff. No fans. No lights. Just the two of them, caught in the stillness of a moment too intimate to stage. And still, no caption. No denial. No acknowledgement. A fan event that changed everything. It was during a scheduled fan meet in Chengdu for Dylan's upcoming series that the line between fiction and reality finally collapsed. Midway through the session, a fan nervously asked, "Have you ever loved someone, and just, never stopped?" There was a pause. Dylan looked down, then up, then away. The room fell silent. And then, unexpectedly, he answered. Yes. I did. I still do. It was the first time he had said anything that raw, unscripted, unfiltered. And though he didn't mention any names, no one in that room needed clarification. The audience exploded in gasps and sobs. Clips from the event went viral within hours. And still, Shen Yue said nothing. Until 3 days later, when a magazine interview she had done weeks prior was finally published. Love never really goes away, says Shen Yue. In the interview, she appeared serene, but tired. When asked what love meant to her now, after everything, Shen Yue replied, I think love never really goes away. Sometimes it just changes its form. Sometimes it becomes memory, or a lesson, or a scar. But sometimes, if you're lucky, it becomes a second chance. It was the most direct answer she had given about her feelings since the entire ordeal began. And with it, fans felt hope blooming again. The private letter that became public. Then came the letter. Dylan's folded note, the one he had carried with him since the Rooftop event, was accidentally captured in the background of a fan's selfie. Only a small part was visible, but the handwriting matched previous autographs. The words were raw. I miss the way we used to speak without speaking. I miss the look in your eyes when you forgave me before I even apologized. The photo was taken down shortly after. The fan issued an apology, claiming it wasn't intentional. But the damage, or the magic, was done. The world now knew that the letter existed. And that Dylan never let it go. Another public sighting, but this time different. In early spring, Dylan and Shen Yue were seen walking together in Wuxi. This time, it wasn't a blurry image. It wasn't a rumor. It was them, hand in hand, walking out of a tea house just as the sun began to set. They didn't smile for cameras. They didn't wave. They just walked, slowly, deliberately, like people who had earned the right to be quiet again. That single image, shared by the owner of the tea house, brought a kind of stillness to the internet. No hashtags. No trending threads. Just awe. Still not defining IT, but maybe they no longer have to. When asked at a recent press conference whether they were dating again, Dylan simply said, We're spending time. Real time. The kind that doesn't need to be explained. And Shen Yue, during her promotion for her latest film, said, We don't owe the world a story every time we feel something. Sometimes, what you're feeling is just for you and maybe one other person. The fans finally understood. This wasn't about reconciliation. This wasn't about PR. It wasn't even about drama anymore. It was about two people who had been through the fire and somehow still found each other in the smoke. The last scene, for now. On a quiet Sunday evening, a fan captured a video from across the street. Dylan and Shen Yue were outside a convenience store, arguing softly, then laughing moments later. He placed his jacket over her shoulders. She rolled her eyes but didn't take it off. He kissed her forehead. She leaned into his chest. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't clear. But it was real. And for the first time in a long time, the fandom didn't ask for more.